So much yarn, so little time.
Big spindle yarn.
Quite the ripping yarn.
Shall we start with the yarn?
Yes, we shall. All right, team. So this is something a bit different. This is going to be the first episode of what I'm sort of titling Brain Farts, because that's exactly what it's going to be. It's just random thoughts out of my brain that sort of pop up when they pop up. And basically what I'm thinking is I'll just jot down a few topics beforehand and just speak my mind on that topic. This is something I've wanted to do for a while, because obviously, like, with the guest episodes, I'm concentrating on the guest mainly. I want them to speak and tell their story, and I sort of just interject and keep them going and keep them flowing and sort of add a few thoughts of my own. But, you know, I get a lot of people ask, like, my thoughts on different things. So this is a way where I can just sit down however often and just sort of, you know, randomly go over some topics that I think of randomly and sort of, yeah, let my brain fart and let a brain fart out. So, you know, good little way for me to just create some more episodes and to just, yeah, get some random thoughts out there, because, you know, people love to hear what I think as well. So, yeah, we'll jump into it. So I've got my little notebook here. So I've randomly written episode 1, Brain Farts, episode 1, NZ/immigration. So this is something that, you know, is a pretty hot topic, especially here in New Zealand. And it's something that I literally just had a conversation with a guy about earlier today. And my thoughts on this, sort of, it's two different topics. But so New Zealand in general is the most amazing country. It has its issues like any country. But the thing is, and something that I've picked up on and realized that makes me laugh, is it's all perspective at the end of the day. You know, like this guy I was talking to earlier, he's originally from South America, right? And he's lived in New Zealand for 10 years. And that's the funny thing that I find is people who are immigrants to New Zealand are more patriotic than a lot of Kiwis. There's so much like bad mouthing of New Zealand going on at the moment. And personally, I can't stand it, because someone who's traveled around the world and seen, you know, how other people live in other countries and third world countries, I have nothing but appreciation for New Zealand, and I love my country and I'm super proud of it. And I see so much online and just, you know, talking to people, everyday people, bad mouthing New Zealand. And, you know, as soon as the economy starts sort of not flourishing, all of a sudden, you know, everyone starts talking bad on it. And I get it. It's hard, you know, like life can be difficult financially and stuff in this country. But the thing you've got to realize about this country is, you know, we are so lucky with what we have, whether it be the resources, you know, the natural beauty, all the different things that make New Zealand and make it amazing. And that's the biggest issue, is I think people don't have perspective. And that's one of the things that I always encourage like young Kiwis to do. I'm like, book a plane ticket and go and travel, because seeing other cultures and other countries who, you know, might not have it so good, yet they're the happiest people. Like, you've got to get that perspective in life, or else you do just keep droning on along, you know, like, oh, you know, this country, blah, 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 blah. And that's what I always say to people. I'm like, if you think it's that bad, leave, book a ticket and go. Like, go move somewhere else or go and travel. You'll soon realize that, you know, this country is the most amazing place. And, you know, I put it in posts and stuff online. I say, you know, the greatest country on earth, which is something that Americans do a lot, and it's perfectly normal. But if you're from New Zealand or Australia, with its like self-deprecating nature, you know, tall poppy syndrome, sort of don't play things up, you know, that shit that I can't stand, then it's like, you know, then people are like, oh, what greatest nation? Like, they take the piss out. It's like, yeah, it's cool being patriotic. It's cool being proud where you're from. and it's perfectly fine for people from the US to do it because their culture is based around like thriving and growth and pushing and everything. It's only because New Zealand and Australia, which both have the tall poppy bullshit, have based their whole society around like this other nonsense where it's all like, you've got to be mediocre and you've got to just, whatever, like that. I can't stand that way of thinking, man. And it bleeds right into even like being patriotic for your country, which I hate. So I guess that's why I wrote this down, because I have these conversations, especially around here where I live in Central Otago, where there is a lot of people from other countries. And like their perspective is like this guy I was talking to, he said, the thing that baffled me when I first moved here is kids waiting for the bus, on the side of the road. Kids are out waiting for the bus. And I'm like, yeah. What's wrong with that? And he's like, well, there's nothing wrong with it, but where I'm from, like, you can't do that. It's not safe. Like, like that's the part that people don't get in this country. Like, there's parts of it that are rough, but, places like that where there's like human trafficking and whatever it might be, where it's like, yeah, you can't even trust to have your kid out waiting for the bus. Like small things like that are what make this country amazing, and obviously the people and everything. But I think that's the problem, is a lot of Kiwis, they don't have that perspective because they haven't travelled. Whereas these foreigners who come here, they're immigrants to our country and they're more patriotic than actual New Zealanders, which it's like that's so back to front. And I feel like it should be a rite of passage for every young Kiwi to go overseas and like, do some time in like a third world country or something. Because I'll tell you what, when you do that and you do travel and see other places, you come back here and you're like, holy shit, people do not know how good they have it here. It's like, it is the most amazing country, and it has all the shit that people love to point out. Oh, petrol's expensive and you don't get paid as much and all this bullshit. Like, you can get ahead in any country. If you work hard enough and you're strategic enough with what you do, like, you can do it. You can get ahead. You just have to not put yourself in a big hole and, like, figure it out. You can do it anywhere. But I mean, I can't judge, because a lot of young Kiwis now are obviously moving to Australia, and I did that exact thing. So it's, like anything I do say on any of these subjects in these podcasts is not in a judgmental way at all. I do not judge anybody. We all have our own story and our own path, and we all create our own destiny, but it's like kind of painful to witness sometimes. And the bad mouthing of New Zealand it really irks me, because it's just the best place, like it sucks that I have to hear how great it is from people who are all from other countries, because they see it for what it is and they come here and be like, holy shit, this place is epic compared to where they're from. Like, again, perspective. It's just, yeah, don't know. I just see so much of it now. Like, as soon as things get tough and the economy tightens up and interest rates go up, and it's all you hear about, and people are just in this like negative loop of just nonsense. I'm like, dude, you might get hit by a fucking bus tomorrow. Like, why are you filling your life and your thoughts with this absolute negative nonsense? Come on, like, don't know. Again, like every country, it has its issues, but our issues are very mild compared to other places in the world. It's, it's that big thinking mentality. I feel like so many people in society, not just here, but all over the world, their depth of thinking is like, it's like this tiny little bloody ball. Whereas, like, the way I see things, I think on a, like, I guess, like an infinite scale, like, like I've said before, where these little pink hairless monkeys that live on this ball floating through space, which is potentially all a simulation, like no one really knows at this point. You got to see things on the bigger picture. And I get everybody's situation is different and everybody's lives are different, but like I said before, we all create our own destiny. So I guess on this topic, what I was getting at is that, it's okay to be patriotic if you're from New Zealand. We shouldn't have to rely on all the immigrants moving here to tell us how great this country is. Like, yes, you can point out all the small shit, like the bloody whatever, all the interest rates are up, the petrol prices, blah, 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 blah. It's all just nonsense. Like, don't let it infect the way you think. Just enjoy the place for what it is. It's the most amazing country on earth, in my opinion. I don't know. It just frustrates me, I guess, to see people that are trapped in that way of thinking about this country. And, if you are stuck in that mind frame and you can't get out, go somewhere else. Move to Australia. You'll soon see that all these countries have the same problems. Like, it is what it is. Like, I saw one the other day, and a guy was raving about how he moved to Australia and he earned like $5 extra an hour at his job. And it's like, dude, like, cool, like, good on you, go hard. Again, I did that earlier on in life, and I was frothing on it when I was a teenager and did it. But it's like, see the bigger picture, mate. Like, you're basing your whole existence and moving countries for $5 an hour more, and you're thinking it's like life-changing. It's like, I don't know. It baffles me to see how it is, I don't know. That's about it on that topic. The next topic I've written here is fatherhood / full-time dad. And this is another one that I was chatting to someone about the other day, and it was actually an older lady. You know what those baby boomer generations are like when you see, I guess, like a younger dad out with his kids, doing stuff that traditionally, back in my day, my old husband Johnny, I couldn't do anything. He wouldn't do it, he just went to work, or, whatever. It's like a completely different generational thing. And she was absolutely frothing on the fact, me and Forrest were at some cafe. We're sitting there chatting away, he's having his fluffy and I'm having my coffee. And she was asking about our situation. I said, yeah, I've been full-time dad with him since, whatever it is, almost 3 years. And she was just like so jazzed up by the fact that I was a full-time dad to this kid, and obviously our older kid as well. But and I said, yeah, like, and I explained to her, I said, my wife was a stay-at-home mum before that for 5 years, and she sort of got lost, she sort of lost herself in that, and it was time for her to get back out there in the world. So I took over and we switched, and I explained to her how that was always our goal going into parenting, that one of us always has to be at home full-time, not at home full-time, but be on hand full-time as a parent. And this old bird, she was just like enthralled by it. She was like, raving on, and she was lit up, she was so stoked on it. Yet she was also confused, because you got to think back when she was in that position. It was completely, you would never see a dad being a full-time parent. It was just a different generation. And then she was asking about how I make a living, though, and this and that. And I said, obviously my wife, she works and she's a manager, this and that. And I work for myself, and sort of explaining that and what I do. And that was a whole other thing. And then the thing is, it came up, and she said I can't remember if she said it was her late husband, like he had passed, or it was just her husband. He worked it was like some blue collar job in like a mill or something. And I said to her, well, it's a digital age now. There's a lot of different ways we can make money now, and the opportunities are a lot more sort of broad for us younger dads. So, we're able to do this stuff, whereas, back then it was all, like I said, very much blue collar. It was blue collar workers, the generation that got a job at a factory when they were 15 and they worked there their whole life, which is another thing that, that makes me sad, seeing that people that get trapped into that. It's not that you can't be happy in that situation, but just like, man, I see people that like worked for a company for 50 years, and I'm like, 50 years. I mean, even when I did work for other people, I struggled to last like a year or two because I just couldn't. I just got bored. I'm just like, man, how could people do this for so long? Again, no offense if that's you, like no judgment at all. But anyway, so I said to her, we started talking about, like what it's like being in that role as a dad, like being a father. And, I was explaining to her that it was all by design because our kids weren't accidents, as you'd call it. It was all planned and we knew what we were getting into. And I always wanted to do it as part of raising our children, was to be the full-time parent. And she's, oh, it's good. You had a plan and stuff. Yeah. And I told her one thing that baffled me, and that was on that exact topic of men that will happily get up every day and go to some job for some corporate company or whatever it might be and slave away every day for however many years, but they'll turn their nose up at like being being a dad and doing housework and like cooking and, doing washing and cleaning the, just general household work. Oh, that's a woman's job and like all this shit. And I'm like, so you're telling me that you will get up every day and go and work your ass off for a big company that couldn't give a flying shit about you and would replace you like that if you left, yet you wouldn't dedicate that amount of energy and time to your own family and your own kids, just being that the work is a bit different. It's housework and doing all the things that kids demand of you. That way of thinking as a man has always baffled me. Like, I've never been that way. I've always been like, I would rather put my energy into my family over just being some bloody pawn in a system of workers, like, I don't know. I guess I've never understood that way of thinking. I've always been the opposite, where it's like, yeah, I'll get up every day and do this shit for my family. I love it. And that's where it's always like baffled me, that opposite way of thinking. I guess it's just like an old school generational thing that's been ingrained in society, where it's like, no, we're men, we go to work and we do manly work. We don't do the bloody laundry. It's like, dude, if my wife wants to go out and work and make money, like, I'll happily just do that. Like, it's awesome. You get to hang out with your kids. You get to, like, yes, it has its days where you're like, this sucks. Anybody who's a parent knows how hard children can be to deal with. But in general, if you, like myself, when I did, work for other people, most of my life I did a lot of very manual labor style work, out in the weather or just working your ass, killing yourself physically. When it comes to doing housework and shit, it's like, this is a piece of cake. I think it's harder mentally than anything, dealing with the stress of tantrums and children stressing you out. But the actual work side of it, that's the part that's always baffled me. What are you talking about? You'll go and like dig holes with some bloody company all day, but you won't do a bit of laundry and dishes and look after the kids, like, don't know, I guess that's just my different way of thinking. But being a full-time dad is awesome. Like, I saw a thing the other day, and it was just one of those online bloody alpha coach douchebag bloody people. And he's like, real man, he would never let his wife go to work. Like, you're the man, you make the money. And like, they all put on the big manly voice and they're all on steroids and shit. Like, I'm like, come on, dude, don't put that on younger generations. These societal like norms that have just been handed down through generations. It's like, that guy I was talking about that worked in the factory. Imagine how different society and life is from when he was in his 20s or whatever. compared to like when I was, or the younger generations from now are. The world's a completely different place. And that's those societal norms. I'm like, there's certain old school things that are very good, and I, incorporate those into my life and the way I do things and think. But there's other ones, like I said, from Mr. Alpha male coach, steroid man, where I'm like, don't pass that shit down. Like, that ship has sailed, dude. We do not need that in society. Everyone can do whatever they like. If you want to be a stay-at-home dad like me, then give it a crack. It's awesome, If you actually enjoy being a parent and being a father, you got to get out there and work and make the money and provide. Yes, which I also do. I'm self-employed. I work for myself, so I do that as well. But like, I don't know. You can see where these things just keep happening generation from generation, because there's a certain percentage that just keep passing it down. And again, like, I'm not, those online alpha coach guys, all the positivity and a lot of the manly stuff I 100% agree with, but things like that, that old school thinking of like, the woman should be at home in the bloody kitchen, the men provide, blah, 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 like 50 years ago, like, whatever, that was normal. But now it's like, cut that out. I don't agree with that at all. You can be the manliest dude in the world. You could still be at home working your ass off for your kids, like doing what's got to be done around the house. There's absolutely no shame in that. And I embrace it and love it. And I love to see my wife back out in the world thriving and smashing it, career-wise and everything as well. So depends on your motives. I know the whole like one parent working full-time thing isn't as common as it used to be. There's a lot of parents out there that sadly have to both work just to survive. But again, that's that we all create our own reality situation. Ours was all by design. We set that up going into parenting. That was always part of the goal, and we were willing to sacrifice what we had to make it happen. So we did, and we're still doing it today. And like I said, I absolutely love being a full-time dad, full-time, kind of, being the main sort of on-hand parent, I guess you'd call it. Oh, what are we at? 24 minutes. I'm going to try and keep these kind of short, because I don't think you'd want to hear me waffling on for too long, but, obviously I can do this all day. I'll just keep talking and coming up with random thoughts to think about, and that's why it's called brain farts, because none of this is planned out. I literally 5 minutes ago wrote down some ideas, and that's what I'm talking about. So, yeah, some episodes we might get deep, some we might just yarn about just random nonsense. So this one's funny. The third thing I wrote on this list is angry people, why? ? Probably should have been, why are people angry? This is one that I was thinking about the other day. And it's another thing that kind of baffles me about humans and life. I'm very observant. So I'm always looking at other people and sort of how they carry themselves and what they, try and get a gauge on how they think. Obviously, without actually sitting and doing a podcast with someone, I don't really know how they think and process things, but from an observational point of just how people operate out in the world, you can kind of get a gauge on what they're like. And there's one thing that really baffles me, and that's just angry people. Like, people are just angry. The reality is, like I said before, we're like a bunch of pink monkeys, and we are on this floating ball flying through infinite space. Sit down and think about infinite space for 2 seconds and really take the time to think about, get deep and think about your existence. And it's pretty hard to still be angry. Everyone has bad days, but the people that I see who out in society who just seem to be angry all the time, those are the ones that I can't really wrap my head around, because I'm not like that at all. like, again, have bad days, but 99% of the time I'm pretty stoked to be living this life and, you know, to be enjoying it. And so often when I'm out in public, and whether it's people, the way they drive, you know, the angry little people behind the wheel, get out of my way, go faster, turn into your driveway quicker, and they're just raging. And I'm just like, and that's a lot of it is like people when they're in their car, they're in their little bubble of rage and, you know, whatever, their little comfort bubble where they can be all pent up. And I'm like, I mean, these days I just sort of see it and shake my head and have a bit of a chuckle to myself because I just think, oh, that poor individual. But like, you know, think about leaving this world. Like, get deep, take time out of your distracted ass life and sit down and think about what your life is and how short it really is in comparison to, I guess, just infinite space, you know, like you're going to die one day. And, well, who knows with technology now when that'll happen. But the thing is all of this stuff that you're experiencing in life and all the joy and all the crappy parts, it's all going to end. And there's a potential that it's just nothing. You're going to leave this conscious body of yours and that's it. Just infinite nothing. And you won't even know you're gone because you don't have a brain to think anymore. And nothing can like bring you closer to mortality than getting real deep with that. And, you know, when I had kind of my spiritual awakening, it was probably in my early 20s, like, and I got deep. A lot of it was probably fueled from years of drug use of different types, mind-altering substances. But I had like a panic attack because I was like, this isn't forever. And the fact that people can go through life angry and stressed out and making this face every day out in public, just scowling at other people and just, and the saddest part is the people that are like that, most of them have it bloody good. It's always the ones who actually have a great life for some reason that are like that. Like I said earlier, like you go to a third world country and those people are stoked. Like they have nothing and they are stoked, you know, like I remember leaving Indonesia years ago before we had kids and stuff and we were traveling and we saved all our tip money till the end and we had stayed with this family on an island. This island doesn't even have cars or anything. And at the end, we packaged up tip money into envelopes. You know, and the average, I think in Indo, like the average daily wage is like $4 or something. Like it's insane. But most of them are so stoked and they all the family showed up because we stayed on this island for like three weeks or something. I can't even remember now, but you know, it's usually somewhere where people go for a weekend. We were there for like 3 weeks and we divvied out all this tip money and they're all crying and it was this big thing and it was like, we were like, whoa, what is going on? And, you know, we had given them like a year's worth of wages for them as a tip at the end. And they were so happy. Like, we were like, oh, was it that big of a deal? Like, it was nothing to us. We were like, whatever. And that was when we realized we were like, man, like, these people have basically nothing and they are so happy and they were so stoked just with this bit of money we had given them or whatever it might be, you know, like, and then the people who have so much, you know, like here and in Australia and stuff in these Western countries, for whatever reason, they're just so angry and like sad. And I'm like, dude, go bush for a bloody month. Then see how you feel. Like you don't need anything in this life. You need food and water and shelter, you know, like you can survive. And yet the people who are the most like angry and just fired, they're just negative, always have a great life, like in comparison. And I was thinking about it, is that like a benchmark, because as humans, you sort of go from one thing and you work your way up to like, whether it's materialistic stuff, or anything in your life, like getting better, that's the new benchmark. And then you push to the next thing, and then you push, and it gets to a point where like, these people driving around in a bloody Bentley, they're at the top of the top, they've done it all, and they're just scowling, and they're just walking around the supermarket looking at other people like they're the enemy. Like, obviously where I live, there's here in Monica, there is quite a lot of those wealthy folk who have that mentality, that elitism or whatever you might call it. But I mean, it exists everywhere, and I just cannot wrap my head around it. Like, going through life with a brain that's wired that way, to me, is just the saddest thing possible, because those people living their life like that are going to be on their deathbed and they're going to be going, shit, this is it. And I just lived the way I lived for however old they are, however many years. When in reality, as humans, the complete opposite is true. Other people are amazing. Yes, there's some scoundrels out there. There's some shit people. A lot of them are the product of their environment, sadly. But I just can't get my head around going through life thinking like that. Like I said, whether it's like road raging or just existing in this society of little humans on this ball with that, just that internal, like, you can just see it in people. And I just think, and actually those people are the ones that I legit love to just like hit them with some positivity and it's like, oh, how you doing? Like, have a chat with them and just slam them with positivity, and you just see them like, oh, what? Like, it's like, yeah, not everybody's in that negative, shitty, bloody circle of thinking that you're stuck in. Like, there is people out here who are genuinely pretty stoked on life, because at the end of the day, like I said before, like it isn't infinite. Whether those types of people know that or not, or they just never did enough drugs to go on that journey of, enlightenment. But I just couldn't imagine getting through life like that and not having joy, not finding joy in everyday life, not waking up and being stoked. Because at the end of the day, that's the thing. If you get up in the morning and you get on with life, and, I get some people can be stuck in shit jobs and a situation they hate. And those are the people that you need to push some of this good thinking on and show them that, you can change and you can make a positive change in your life. No one else is going to do it for you. You have to take the reins and do it. But every morning you wake up is a blessing at the end of the day. It's, yeah, I don't really know where else to go with that. Just don't be angry. Like, why are people angry? Angry people. Why? I just don't get it. Again, we all have our down days. The human body has certain chemical levels that sometimes make us feel shitty, but in general, you should be stoked on life. You might go check the mail tomorrow and a bloody bus runs you over. And you go, oh shit, this is it. I was just a negative prick my whole life and treated other people like shit. And now this is what this is the end. Like, it's just so baffling to me, because I'm the complete opposite. I'm stoked. I try to uplift other people, even if it's just with my energy or whatever it might be. Like, life's good, like maybe that's that benchmark we were talking about. Some people are born into such a privileged situation. They've never actually had to go through shit and like go hungry or grind for something or, or whatever it might be. That's a shit situation. Have they just been silver spooned their whole life? And that's why it's why, like I said earlier, it's always the people who have it the best that have the shittest attitude. So I don't know. I don't wrap my head around it. Anyway, let's call this episode 1 of Brain Farts, because that's exactly what this is. I can just brain fart my way along forever. But those are today's topics, and yeah, if you have any suggestions for future topics that you want me to unleash a brain fart on, I'm more than happy to do it. And yeah, if you've listened to this far, then I'm stoked to have you, and I'm stoked all the people that have got help from these podcasts, ones I've done with other people. It's super. It's the whole reason for doing it, you know, like with any of this stuff. If you can help one person and sort of help one person make positive change and do good things in life, then you've sort of achieved the goal. I mean, that's my goal with this podcasting stuff. So, and that's why, you know, the whole thing is having on people that are sort of having a crack or doing something, whether it be in business or just personal growth themselves or burping, whatever it might be. That's why I like to have those types of individuals on, because that it's proof, you know. It shows others that you can do this, you can have a crack, you can get out of that negative circle of thinking, that negative mindset, and that little bubble you're stuck in, and you can actually jump into another bubble which floats off into positivity land, and you're away. Like, life's amazing, man. It's such a journey, and if you're not enjoying it, you need to make changes, because you know, oh Jesus, that caramel latte's repeating itself. But you know, you need to make changes for the positive and just enjoy this existence, man, because like I said, the bigger picture is pretty gnarly. Even if we do live in a simulation, who knows? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. I have no idea. But anyway, I appreciate all of you if you're listening to this or watching it. Yeah, send me some I can't even talk now. Time to get off. Some suggestions for brain fart topics, because I sort of like unloading this thinking machine every now and again and just sort of yarning about random stuff and give you guys a bit of an insight as to how my brain thinks or works. But yeah, we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. It means a lot to me. I thoroughly enjoy podcasting, and that's the only reason I'm doing this, is because I actually love it. I love hearing people's stories. I love talking to people. It's just, before we go, here's a random topic. So I was talking to someone the other day, and they were like talking about the podcast and stuff and different content things I'm doing. And I was talking to them about like the personal growth thing and how it comes in so many different forms, you know. And I was explaining to them that I used to be, you know, being a photographer, I was like, I do not go in front of the camera. I do not do that. I take the pictures. I literally couldn't even stand the idea of being in a photo, because I was the photographer guy, and I was obviously at a point in my life where self-acceptance wasn't there yet. And then like the journey that you go on to go from that to then creating content, you know, sitting there editing content of yourself for hours on end and doing podcasts and making videos and being on the other side of it. Like, that's a whole journey in itself. That's the personal growth thing. It can come in many shapes and forms. And I've had to go on that journey just to be sitting here talking to you guys. So no matter what it is in your life, you know, whatever, just have a go, because, you know, even on something like that, I used to be terrified of being on camera and doing exactly what I'm doing. And then I've quickly realized that, you know, I avoided it for all that time, and I'm actually pretty good at it, and it's a skill that I should be leaning into. So now we're here. Life's amazing, man. Get out there and live it. All right. Peace out. See you in the next episode. Thanks heaps for watching. I do appreciate all of you. And yeah, have a great day. Keep on trucking. You.